Ishmael, Salim, or Suan? Who's the real villain in this mystical world, and what do they want with the dragon?
Will Moraine and Lan ever get back together?
Are the Aes Sedai really this perfect altruistic type of group?
Is Rand going to find his way back to his friends?
Find out as Red and Red Real Reviews spins their take on season 2 of Amazon Prime's The Wheel of Time.
In her face, the mirror of your
I have 2.8% body fat. My body's like a microchip. A grain of sand could destroy it.
The man who must say, I am the king, is no true king.
Someone will die.
Of fun.
And of murder.
So I told him to mark everything with the international symbol for gender. And,
Leslie, I typed your symptoms into the thing up here, and it says you could have network connectivity problems.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
My body's a microchip.
It's Halloween. That is really, really good timing.
Make believe I'm everywhere. Give it in the light.
My brain is on fire. I'm dying.
I should have been more specific.
I think it happens over a long period of time, just like piece by piece, you know?
I once forgot to brush my teeth for 5 weeks.
There is no middle ground.
I am the one who knocks.
Oh my God. The microchip has been compromised.
I want you to stand out. I want all of you to be as different as you can possibly be.
Written on the pages is the answer to a never-ending story.
And welcome back on into the latest episode of Red and Red Real Reviews. And this was your idea. And I never heard of this show, The Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime. And it's this kind of mystical, almost fairy tale type of setting for a show. And I had a little bit more homework to do because you had already watched season 1. I had not.
Yeah, that was tough for you to catch up. It is it's a very big fantasy show, big production and a lot of characters, a lot of weird names, and because it's a book series, so you're always going to have the challenge of covering something that they packed into this TV show, but it's 15 books the course of the series.
Might have a strong following, and we'll do our best to not insult the cult following too much,
offend those people. Yeah, because we have not read a word of any of those 15 books. We admit it.
I could 15.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So as I had to work through season 1 had this very kind of like Lord of the Rings fellowship type of feel to it. This caravan of travelers, these kids that grew up together, and they have something special about them that you have yet to find out. But season 2 had more of a tribalism to it, and all these different groups and aspects of that. They all kind of have this different motivation towards the wheel, this mystical dragon person, whatever the case may be. Obviously, this way people have already watched season 1, so they know the dragon is Rand.
Right.
But that one gave me more of like a Game of Thrones type of perspective on it, because of the tribalism, because of all these different motivations of who wants what when and that sort of thing. So I mean, you having a little bit more prior watching of it, what was your kind of take on the parallels between similar themed shows and books, that sort of thing?
I definitely agree with the first season was like a journey, just an epic journey. And, in that regard, it did kind of remind me of Lord of the Rings. But the second season really, it focused on, the different groups and the factions of people and, the nuances with those groups. Towards the end of season 2, we get into Egwene's story with the, was it Damane that she was? I forget what her superior was that controlled her, but that there was a whole dynamic in that setting where no one was allowed to have power. So, very you have the different lands and the very different customs and ways of life. So that did remind me of Game of Thrones with, the Lannisters and, the Dothraki and all the different groups of people who just live their lives completely different from the next. So I'm questioning, it's crazy to find any particular person in the cast because there are hundreds of minor characters in this show.
Yeah.
But I'm like relatively sure that the setting with Perrin, when he was with the giant guy with the weird nose,
Wow.
when he was with them and he was in that village and they were all kind of fighting, and then it was right before they got split up. There was this guy, one of the fighters, one of the warriors. He was this kind of skinny guy and he had facial hair, and I am like 80% sure that this guy was fighting alongside the worm in Game of Thrones. I swear. So and you do notice, when you're watching some of these shows, I don't know about this show in particular, but you'll be like, oh, that guy was also on the Amazon, the Lord of the Rings show. They all the people in these fantasy shows all kind of cross over.
Yeah.
Like they definitely get work in other fantasy shows. So I was kind of surprised to see that guy. Like it was either Game of Thrones or it was like Last Kingdom, or it was one of these, very big production fantasy shows.
And of course crossover within the studio too, because like when we did Lioness, we talked about all the actors that got reused from a Taylor Sheridan show. So I'm sure sure there probably were actors reused from other Amazon shows with this one.
Yeah, so this show was a big to do. There's a lot of special effects. I actually find it to be very tasteful as far as special effects go. Like nothing too cheesy or like very obviously fake. And to be honest, to have a good show with good special effects, you don't need to spend the type of money that the Fellowship or the Lord of the Rings Amazon show spent, billions of dollars. Not necessary.
No, I mean, just look at what Star Wars did in 1977.
Right. Yeah, so you can get the job done with I'm sure when they were thinking of adapting this to TV, they were like, wow, we got big shoes to fill because there's just a lot going on in these books, and how are we going to represent all that stuff on screen? But I think they did a great job. I mean, that's having no prior knowledge of the books and nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
But
as far as like the very specific like comparisons to Game of Thrones or something similar, ironically enough, since you brought up Lawal, he reminded me actually of the Beast from the television Beauty and the Beast show. Like the one that was set in like the subway.
Oh,
in the 90s, I think it was. That he kind of reminded, like the way they did his makeup, he kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of I do feel like the part with Egwene and that whole culture of like suppressing people's power. I think it was women specifically, right? Suppressing women's power. That kind of was reminiscent to me of some of the cultures in Game of Thrones, which, some of the situations that the female characters dealt with in Game of Thrones, where they were just like tortured and beaten and, assaulted and just really broken down, that culture of we're just going to break you down until there's nothing left and like a shell of a person.
Yeah, they were either property to be married off to bond these large, powerful families together, or they were working in the whorehouses. And like the specifics from Game of Thrones, I noticed like I got a lot of direct comparisons in my brain when they introduced Lady Serath, when they introduced the High Lord, in these like gilded gold plated armors. That kind of reminded me of the Martells, of the Sands, these like kind of desert worlds when Daenerys and Tyrion go to build their army and they're trying to and they get the Unsullied to bring that, like that kind of reminded me of that stuff a little bit, like these kind of like off-world places.
The high society,
Yeah.
The house and the environment that Moraine grew up in, you know, we got to see a little bit of that, which was I thought an interesting storyline with her sister. We found out, you know, she was actually the older sister, even though she
Right.
looked a lot younger than her sister. And then we got to meet her nephew, and so that was interesting. But yeah, that high society, you know, seeing how they were just really well off and they didn't have to worry about much.
Yeah, the whole wheel of time thing, this wheel that we kind of haven't totally seen yet, obviously, is has a slowing of time effect with people's ages and whatnot. Because I think like Moraine, Celine, they're all like thousands of years old.
Yep.
And the only other one-to-one I noticed, like as far as like cinematic similarities, the final battle, when they were taking Falm, that reminded me a lot of the final battle in King's Landing.
Yeah, it wasn't as extensive as that, you know, hour and 15-minute episode or whatever it was.
This show moved fast.
Yeah. I did feel the first season was a little bit slow. This season I do think had a little bit more oomph behind it. It moved faster. I don't feel like I was ever really bored.
Yeah.
It kind of moved right along, and you know, I'd be seeing you know, do you want to go to the next one? And I'm like, wait, it's over?
It's over?
I feel like we just started this 20 minutes ago.
Yeah. I thought the same thing, or at least I did after episode 3. Like maybe the first 3 were kind of moving at a similar pace.
The first one and like the second one, like it was like, okay, well, this is where everybody is like right now, and showing you kind of how it's gonna, you know, giving you questions of how it's gonna progress throughout the season. So yeah, those were very you know, expository, a lot of background information episodes.
Yeah. So one thing that I continuously, I mean, we talk about previous shows as far as following the storyline and predicting things. One thing that I found hard to predict was who the antagonists were in this show, because there were a lot of them. I mean,
I know
you've got your core group, which is I'll call them the Two Rivers gang. Rand, Egwene, Nynaeve, Matt, and Perrin. And there's a lot of different characters that get introduced to the story that, if new to this season, as well as carryovers from season 1, that have a lot of influence over them. Celine, obviously, you think she's just giving Rand a place to lay his head at night, and a little fun stuff too, I guess. And
other things, yeah.
Yeah. his board, his room and board payment.
Yeah.
And it turns out she's this like dark lord of sorts from the Forsaken times. You've got Ishmael, who, you know, he's the bad guy, but at certain times it seems like he's almost just a bad guy by default. Like his goals, his ambitions aren't necessarily aimed at just necessarily wreaking havoc and destroying. You've got Lady Serath, who is just kind of maybe the useful idiot of the villains, where she's just an army of maniacs that wreak havoc on things. And Leandrin, who you think is a good guy this whole time. She's an Aes Sedai, but she's wearing the red cloth and she's manipulating characters left and right. So like it was kind of like a shell game of who the villain was.
Yeah, I definitely felt the same with not really as much with Celine. I know as it pertained to Rand, he kind of struggled with, you know, her being Lanfear or being a Forsaken, because he's like, wait, but she's, you know, been like my friend with benefits this whole time. Like, I don't see her as that. And, you know, it's almost like he didn't believe Moraine. And then, you know, later there was some mistrust, because he's like, no, Celine wants the best for me. And I could see the struggle that he had with her. But yeah, the most conflicting characters for me that I was constantly like, okay, is this person truly bad? Are they just misunderstood? You know, and I kind of felt that way with Leandrin and Ishmael. Like, you know, they had kind of the whole backstory of Ishmael. Remember with the little girl and the monster, like he was like, oh, well, you know, he was trying to explain to her, like, oh, don't be scared of this big, ugly, terrifying monster. Like,
It's just animals.
So yeah, like I was like, okay, well, is he misunderstood? Like, does he see the beauty, or does he see like that people deserve, you know, a certain treatment, that they shouldn't be like, you know, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. And so I was kind of wondering about him. I'm like, is he truly evil? And then, you know, Leandrin, you're just like, you know, why does she have Matt like locked up? Like, what is she doing with this? Like, why does she keep going off? And like, it seems like she's always going off and doing something else. Like, what's the purpose of all this? And, you know, is she bad, or is it just like, does it look really bad, but it's not?
Yeah, and that one, when she had Matt locked up, that one was flipped on its coin. I flipped the coin flipped on its end, because you got the impression she was holding him because she wanted to turn Nynaeve into a red, and and obviously they grew up together in Two Rivers. They're friends. So like she's like trying to grab, and Egwene is off in their little whatever Aes Sedai in training program, whatever it was.
Yeah,
and it's like she's like holding them as like some kind of way to turn Nynaeve to become someone like her. And then all of a sudden, when that's not a reality anymore, she's like, Matt, I don't need you anymore. Go away.
Yeah, and just the whole, you know, the whole thing with Leandra and her son. You know, we see that she's taking care of this old man, but it's actually her son, because, you know, she hasn't aged, like much like Moraine. So, you know, that brought a whole different sense to it. But yeah, it's just, you're constantly guessing. You're like, can I trust this person? And I did get a sense, I don't know if you did, but Celine, the point where she like took him to the mountaintop and she was telling him about like her previous, like she's basically said, like, oh, I've really only had one other great love, and it was this person. And there was something I did not trust about her, and I don't know what it was, but at that moment, you know, I said to my husband, I'm like something's not right with her, and I don't know why, but I don't trust her.
Yeah, I can't remember if there was something alluding to that going into that, where to kind of put the seed of doubt in your mind. But I did notice that, and then of course he goes full dragon supernova, and she's like, whoa,
yeah,
like what? All of a sudden you don't care about this kid anymore?
Yeah,
He's been your meat stick for the last 6 months or whatever.
I know.
But it interesting about the misunderstood characters, because Ishmael, I thought too, not only with that initial scene with the little girl, the flashback, but also the flashback to when he was being punished by the first and his friend that Rand wound up being, now his name's going to escape me as soon as I actually have to speak it.
I know.
He kind of made Ishmael live on. Ishmael just wanted to die, and he made Ishmael kind of continue living as punishment, because he knew Ishmael wanted to die. So like, oh no, I know you hate this living crap. You're gonna be forever forsaken into life and living amongst these regular humans. So like, and so you almost kind of start to feel sorry for him, like, this guy, for whatever reason, whatever execution flaws he has in his head, as far as achieving this goal of leaving this life, are just taken from him. Like, all this guy wants to do is check out.
Yeah. You were kind of questioning whether you should feel bad for him or not. Kind of the whole time, you're just like, how do I feel about that?
Yeah. As we normally do, I guess the actual name of the segment we may have strayed away from, but we'll get back to the film student in all of us, and we kind of adapted it more to just focusing on character developments and relationships. So what were your what were some of your favorite character arcs or storyline relationships throughout this show?
I mean, a couple things that I enjoyed, which I didn't know that I would, or I kind of enjoyed Perrin's arc. You know, he was the one in the first season. Didn't he accidentally kill his wife?
Yes.
So, I mean, he's just kind of this, you know, he starts to become this monster, you know, physically. Because he's a wolf. So I really liked the storyline of him becoming a wolf and getting in tune with, like, you know, the other wolves, and the way, like, I just loved the whole exchange, and there wasn't even like verbal, but with the actual wolf, who, you know, the man told him, oh, well, you know, when he's ready to tell you his name, he'll show you. And he's like, he'll show me? Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then, like, I loved the whole thing with Hoppy, and like just the friendship with, you know, this this little wolf, that they just had each other's back. And that's why I was like crushed when you know, he protected Perrin and died for it.
Yeah.
But
and the fact that he told him to stay, like, don't come in here, this is dangerous.
yeah,
No, you're my master, I'm gonna follow you.
that completely broke my heart. But I mean, I loved, you know, Perrin's whole arc of, you know, feeling so guilty about what he had done, you know, accidentally killing his wife, and then just kind of becoming something different in spite of that. And then also I enjoyed Matt's arc with the bartender, the barmaid lady. So I don't know, I just enjoyed that whole thing. And it was also a thing with Matt too. It was a little game that like, just with what they show you, it's very misleading, because, you know, you see that there's this vision that Matt kills Rand, and you're like, wait, what? And you're like, Matt is bad? Like, why would he do that? Like, you know, so you're questioning that. So just kind of, you know, they're making you think that he's a villain, or they're making you think that he's bad, but then by the end, what was the name of the heavenly crew that they rounded up to help them fight the last battle?
The Heroes of the Horn.
The Heroes of the Horn. I thought that whole thing was awesome. And then, you know, by the end, like, Matt's like, yeah, Rand and I are gonna, like, do good things. We got the Heroes of the Horn behind us. Like, I liked the whole, you know, camaraderie. I love, you know, Rand and Matt's friendship in the end, and how they really, you know, they were reunited, and they came together. So
I think they had to sustain some kind of I don't know whether you call it an internal strife. I don't want to call it like a hidden evil, because I don't think Matt's an evil character, but like some kind of internal strife because of the dagger situation from the previous season, where the dagger corrupted him, and they bring the dagger back, and it's like, oh, like, I think they kind of had to maintain some kind of doubt in your head that Matt could be influenced and turned by his own vices, or whatever the case may be.
Right. That's what it was. They were instilling doubt in you by being like, okay, what would cause Matt to kill Rand, or attempt to kill Rand by the end of this, when they're best friends? So you were wondering how it was going to come to that. So yeah, you always had that kind of doubt in the back of your mind, like, that can't be that right. That vision can't be right. If it is, like, no, that can't be right.
And for it to be an accident like it was, where he thought he was saving Rand.
Right.
But hats off to Matt for MacGyvering this spear with the dagger at the end of it. You didn't actually have to touch the stupid thing.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, my character is like, my favorites were the Two Rivers gang, all of them, and because and similar to the previous discussion about who's the real villain. A lot of times, especially throughout season 2, not so much in season 1, but especially throughout season 2, you didn't really know who the real hero was, or at least who the main hero was, because The show like very equally balanced the focus on Rand as the dragon, obviously. It goes without saying. A Gwen's this internal power that she can't control, and she can't not control, but kind of cast into how she wants it to manifest it. That's
she can't harness it the way that she wants it.
Yeah, as opposed to the knave, who it comes very natural to.
Right.
Terrence already spoke about his quest of salvation from the accidental killing of his wife. Matt, who I found to be a character that the show kind of shit on a little bit. Like they treated him like the useful idiot a lot of the times.
Yes.
But for him to kind of have this legacy backstory of being a hero of the Horn was kind of like, in Aaron Carter with the justice for Jordy. This is justice for Matt. He's a hero. He really is.
Yeah.
And of course, the other one I liked was this. Something was not left right from season 1 into season 2 between Lan and Moraine, and that drove them apart. And then to eventually learn that she pushed Lan apart because she knew that he was this true, loyal, faithful servant, and he was never going to leave her side. But she needed to put him down. She needed to destroy him mentally in order to get him to back off and let her go on this quest until she was back. Until she was back and they were ready to bond again.
What was that? I don't know if it was in the last or second to last episode of the season, but what was that talk they had where she said something about, like, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember what the exact words were, but she said something like, it's not because I'm better than you, like you're my better half, or she said something like that. Like that was just like, so eye-opening after, the shattering of what they had gone through.
I had a feeling when she broke the bond with him that she was telling him a fib. Like she needs to tell him something so outrageous to get him to back off.
Right.
That she's going to tell him something that is just outright false. To just kind of mess with his head and make him go off and try to find himself or whatever.
Right. She was doing it for his own good, but it was just very cruel at the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, justice for Matt. Maybe Lan is our Jordy in this show.
Yeah. You know what? Lan is such a good guy. Like you really root for him, and he's just such a decent stand-up guy.
And I thought it was funny, the Aes Sedai's and the waters that they're like hiding in with the retreat. The one of them's like checking him out over by the water cooler when he's shirtless. She's like, move to the side.
Yeah. That was funny.
So it took 5 shows, but we finally get to pay homage to our oft freckled and fiery headed brethren. The Redheads had a pivotal role in this show. Gingers everywhere rejoice.
Yeah. I was happy to see that. I mean, even in the first season with Rand, I was like, yes, there's a good looking dude and he's a redhead. Like he's out there for all of us.
The most underrepresented member of society in modern entertainment. Don't at me.
Yeah, the minority of, just underrepresented, and so I had a good sense of pride with, especially since he's the man, he's the dragon.
Yeah.
He's the most powerful one of all, and he's a redhead. So I was like, he's carrying the flag for all of us.
Yes. he's our more hunky carrot top.
He's our leader. Yeah. And I mean, it was kind of a shame that, he was hiding out and he had to shave his head because this guy, I don't know if I looked up his history, but I mean, like, it's pretty obvious. He probably, I would bet that he used to be a model, like he's just a chiseled, like, guy with a perfect jawline, like, and you know, even with the shaved head, I was just like, wow, it's really not flattering. Like he just looks so much cooler and so much more badass with the red hair.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I thought.
Let it be known, people. Let it be known. But
and then when they introduced Elaine, you know, when she kind of came into it, you know, in the little Aes Sedai school, I was like, yes, another redhead.
yeah. Then with Rand, it was funny. First of all, his name, Rand al'Thor, the Dragon Reborn. You could not give this character a more badass name.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny, like even though his shaved head, I don't know whether maybe it was just a poor cover on his head or bald cap or whatever, but you could kind of see some red roots shining through his chrome dome.
I bet he really shaved his head.
Yeah.
I don't know that he you could definitely see some red shining through, but I think, was it Moraine or somebody made some somebody alluded to it, was like, oh, the fact that like we know that you shaved your head, like you have red hair.
Right. Yeah.
You know, someone kind of called him out for hiding out. We're like, yeah, we know.
And someone I think I remember the scene you're talking about, actually. I think it was something like he's a redhead. I know that I know those folks stand out here or something like that. Or you're interested in those folks or something like that.
Yeah.
But as far as Elaine goes, I loved her. That's my girl. I thought her arc was excellent. I mean, she and a very developmental arc as well, because she goes from entering this Aes Sedai training program, we'll call it for lack of a better word, and she's this like privileged little princess. You know, she's the daughter heir to whatever, and she's kind of buying the hype of this Aes Sedai thing. And then as her friendships develop with Egwene, with Nynaeve, she starts to I think she starts to put the pieces together that they're still they put themselves forth as this great all-caring organization of sorts, I guess, sisterhood, but they're really still self-serving in their own right. Like they want to enslave Rand and use his power for their own benefit, as opposed to just like, okay, this is a deity basically. And so she winds up developing this friendship where she kind of is removed from this perch of privilege, so to speak, and now she's just like one of the crew, and she's
just like everyone else. Right,
exactly, and develops this healing power that saves the day at the end, because through this accidental spear toss from that, Rand's dead, he's dying, so she winds, because Nynaeve gets her up to the tower, she is able to use her healing powers and save Rand's life.
Yeah, and I love too how you know, she gets to the what's the tower. She gets to the tower, and when I feel like she just instantly buddied up with Egwene. Like they were just besties. Like, yeah, from the get-go, she was just like, all right, girl, I got your back. Like that was it. And then, you know, when what happened to Egwene happened, you know, then it was her and Nynaeve. So it's like they really looked out for each other, and they were like it was like life or death, you know, they really were protecting each other, and really bonded, you know, over some hard things. So yeah, I thought she was a great character. I love her. I'd love to see more of her. I hope, well, I don't know. Maybe someone who read the books can tell us if there'll be more of her.
Yeah, light up the comments, please. Work that algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hope. I mean, we'll get on to our we'll get to our onlook for the show in a couple topics, but I agree. I hope that this kind of unit that they form now, with her working into the Two Rivers gang, obviously with Moraine and Lan, they look like they're sticking around. That Elaine also has her own opportunity to continue her development with amongst the crew.
I think so.
Yeah. The next one is one actually you helped me out with, thinking of an extra topic here.
Just kind of a silly topic.
We always need silly topics. So what some like random things in this show that you couldn't help but focus on And one of them we actually agree with wholeheartedly, and that was
Mhm.
the choice of the actor change of Matt's character.
Right. And that was, I mean, because if you look up, the IMDb, I think it literally puts them like right next to each other and you're like, they look nothing alike.
No.
So he was completely recasted with a guy who, I think my husband was the first to say it. Like, it had been a while. I mean, it's been what, 2 years or something since we've seen the first season. So I didn't really think anything of it. And then my husband said, that's the same actor. And I was like, what do you mean? And I look it up, and sure enough, and I was trying to look it up and figure out, they didn't really say that. Just the assumption was that the first actor had a conflict, so wasn't able to be in it. They didn't say that like he left the show, that it was a poor decision or that there was bad blood or anything. It didn't specify why he left, but yeah, very different physical features of these Matt characters. So that you just were very conscious of. Like, I almost felt like, when Rand saw Matt for the first time, when they were in that town and kind of bumped into each other, like I kind of half expected them to make like a meta joke about it, to be like, oh, you don't look like you did the last time I saw you. I almost thought that they were going to address it, because I've seen that done in like movies or TV shows, which is just kind of like a little poking fun at a recasting or something like that. So
yeah.
Yeah.
That, and like they like tweaked his look just enough to kind of make you question it. And I'm like, but I'm looking at, and of course I just watched season 1 previously. And I'm thinking something not right here.
Yeah.
This not the same dude.
Yeah, I mean, if I had been watching it right away, like I probably would have been like, something's off. But the fact that it's been a couple years, it's they were trying to slip a fast one by us.
Yeah, and not to say the new actor did a poor job, because he did a good job.
No,
But the original actor was very good, so it kind of didn't feel right switching it up.
Yeah, so that was a little distracting. I was very aware too, for a long time I kept looking at Celine, and I was like, I have seen her in something else and it's driving me insane. And I went a few episodes before looking it up, and I figured out that she was from Peaky Blinders, and I was like, okay, now I can rest. Now I know. But I just kept thinking of that. I'm like, that's Lizzie from Peaky Blinders. That's Lizzie.
Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, I loved that show. And then the standout thing for me that I just, I kept saying to my husband, I'm like, dude, like Landron's cheekbones, like what is with these ladies' cheekbones? Like,
yeah,
are they like,
head.
did she have a facelift? Are these natural? Like, there ain't no way those can be natural. Like she had like pointy cheekbones. I've never seen anything like it.
Based on the fact that she wore red all the time, it made you think she was the blockheads from Gumby.
Yeah. Oh man.
Sorry, that was mean. I apologize.
It was something that was so distracting, because like when she talks, like you just can't help but like, she just looks like, it's crazy that this lady like grew up and was a baby and lived her life, this actress, because she looks like an evil queen, or like she just looks like very typecast. Like I can't see her as I can't see her as anything else. So it was just amazing that she was casted for that, because she had, like we were questioning whether she was good or not, and part of that was because she kind of has like an evil face.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's weird, like some actors just have a look about them that fits in a medieval type of setting, a medieval fantasy type of setting. Like you always, like there's a lot of people that get reused over and over again because they just look like they fit in that era of time.
Yes, absolutely. And I think also there's a section of actors who just look like they're evil or bad. Like, are you familiar with Michael Shannon?
Yeah. Dexter, right? Dexter. Michael Shannon's Dexter, isn't it? Yeah.
He's been in so many different things and so many different movies, but he just looks like he's bad news. Just something about his eyes or his face.
Ironically enough, he also has that Leandra type of square blocky head.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel like these are probably the people who are the nicest. Like the actress who plays Leandrin is probably the nicest lady in the world.
Yeah.
And so I bet Michael Shannon's like a sweetheart, but for some reason it's just they've been blessed or cursed with these looks where they just have this inherently evil look to them.
Yeah. Like Sean Bean, eternally cursed to be the character that dies in every role he plays.
Like the hero. Yeah. Yeah, people are definitely typecast for the way that they look. Good, bad, all sorts of things.
I mean, it's some break out of it. I mean, Bradley Cooper was a goofy hunk, and took him a lot of serious roles before he broke out of that. Jim Carrey obviously was goofball, took him a lot of serious roles before he broke out of it. So it happens, and if the actor wants to have a more versatile resume, it takes them a long time to change public's perception. My one thing I always thought, to the point where I almost couldn't watch more than 2 episodes in a row because there were so many details about the show, so many names, so many places, all with these crazy funky names. So that was one thing that kind of like made my brain explode watching the show. And then the other thing is a lot of little bits and pieces of the storyline, characters, relationships. They kind of like popped up and you thought it was significant and then disappeared. One, when Perrin freed, of course now I can't think of her name, the ale woman that was held captive.
Oh, the lady that he released from the cage. I have it Avienda.
Avienda, thank you. Yeah, when he freed Avienda, and then he meets this guy Dane, and then you see Dane later. Turns out he's he's a son of the Night or Brotherhood of the Light or whatever they're called.
Yes.
And his father kills his wolf. Perrin kills his father, and then Dane sees that, and he's going nuts, but he gets dragged away. So all of a sudden, it's like, I hope this is something that's a storyline that's gonna come back in the next season, because it's like, wait a minute, this is like a huge emotional moment. You just like ripped the story out of the character, the character out of the story.
Yes, I was wondering too if that was going to continue because, that was like a huge moment of like revenge and like, it seems like they couldn't just let that sleep. Like I would assume that they will run into each other again, or there will be some grudge that continues.
Yeah, and Celine, when she takes Leandrin's son's soul, sucks it straight out of his body, and and then Leandrin, who's been this major player in the show to this point, just kind of falls off the face of the earth prior to the final battle. And I was like, well, what's going on with Leandrin? She's just gone now.
Yeah, they didn't really wrap up her story with a nice little bow, did they? It seemed like it kind of ended a little abruptly for her.
Yeah. And I was like, this is like a main antagonist in this story.
I'm assuming she'll continue to.
Yeah. No, she has. I mean, we didn't see her die, and she's got this contentious relationship with the Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
I would think she would definitely have to be. She's a recurring anti-hero, if you will. So let's talk about the end of the show. Ishmael is vanquished, but Celine kind of gets a bit of a spook in her still. These kind of new villain that gets introduced at the end, and Celine, obviously we've watched this whole season now, and we talked about it earlier, where she's a very self-serving person with evil history behind her, so we don't necessarily trust her. We think something's up with her.
Yeah,
but this psycho comes in at the end, and at first you think like she's on the dragon's side, but then when she disappears, Celine says that she wishes Rand, like she kind of talks to herself. She says she wishes Rand the best. So like all of a sudden, I was like, whoa. If Celine, this psycho forsaken dark power lady, is scared of this freakazoid, like how bad is she? Like,
Right.
Is Celine like really kind of almost a good guy?
Yeah, didn't she have her by the throat, or she had her in something that she was like, choking her basically? And so to see Celine afraid of her, you're like, okay, this if she's worse than Celine, and Celine is actually afraid of her, she's got to be a scary individual. So yeah, that to me, that whole scene at the end left the door open to, okay, well, besides Celine, there's 12 other of the Forsaken. Well, 11, I guess, so that lady is known as the Spider. She has a more complicated name than that, but
yeah,
she's known as the Spider. So
we were a little unclear of Celine's role in the Forsaken. Is she one of them? Is she not? Was she just tight with Ishmael and Luce Theron? Finally remembered his name.
yeah. So I think I looked it up before, and it listed out the 13 Forsaken, and Ishmael, I believe, was one of the Forsaken.
Yeah.
So all these like, ancient people that are like reborn again, which I guess Lanfear or Celine was, kind of taken out of the brought out of the box and played with again. So yeah, that's what makes you think that Lanfear is going to break out these other Forsaken and use them, and do what she needs to do to fulfill whatever evil plan she has in the next season.
Taken out of the box and played with again. We'll call the Forsaken the land of misfit toys.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, what would you be looking forward to the most going into season 3?
Oh man. I think just kind of seeing all the, the core group of friends back together, working together, Egwene and Rand and Matt and Perrin and all of them working together. And then I mean, I know a lot of people are rooting for Moraine and Lan, and I would consider myself among those people. Like I'm kind of rooting for them.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to see them kind of unite, permanently on a more or at least be more assured of what their status is. And yeah, I don't know, we'll just everyone banding together against Lanfear or whoever else, of the Forsaken that Lanfear throws at them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a friend. For me, though, it would also be uncovering things like that. Who else is going to come out of the woodwork as the villain? Are we going to see characters like Leandrin kind of come back as the villain? Maybe Dane comes back as a villain with this hellbent revenge tour.
Right.
And like you said, the main group, the Two Rivers gang, as I will continue to call them. Seeing them, they were together in season 1, and they're all split apart in season 2. So having another season where they're together in a unit working in tandem will be really fun.
Yeah.
Well, there were a lot of crazy names to remember in this show. Hopefully you remember our names. Follow my podcast partner at Binge the Ginge on Instagram and TikTok with dots between the words, only on Instagram. And yours truly, Nutmeg 2 Palmetto, that is the number 2, also on Instagram and TikTok. Subscribe and follow on our video platforms, YouTube and Rumble, and listen along on all of our audio platforms as well: Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Until the next real review, Red and Red, signing off.
Bye.
In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world. And you will be launching the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
What? Do what?
I'd like to be pimps from Oakland or cowboys from Arizona, but it's not Halloween.
Let the dogs out, like, who let the dogs out? Who brought this guy along?
Slow ahead. I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chump some of this shit.
Grow up, Peter Pan. Count Chocula.
Never, ever marks the spot.
One more thing. Do me a favor. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
You did it. You crazy son of a bitch, you did.
Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today. We can't be consumed by our petty differences anymore.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
No. Try not. Do. Or do not. There is no try.
All right. Then you do us proud. Because I don't want no scrubs.
Don't act so surprised, Your Highness. You weren't on any mercy mission.
Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for our right to live.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
I'll take care, all right? None but love for you. None but love for you.
10. X marks the spot.
Have any clue what's about to happen to him?
Oh, not a chance in hell. Good night.
Peace! Smile, you son of a...
Toodaloo, motherfucker.
Hey, ain't too proud to beg.
Come on!
What?
It's not funny anymore.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not trying to be
references.
I don't. Still, nothing. I swear to you.
But as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night, we will not vanish without a fight, we're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.